Hello, and welcome to the 15th episode of By the Fire with the Shamana, a short transmission bringing shamanic wisdom into your life, one conversation by the fire at a time. It is intended as a form of medicine to heal, open perspective, raise consciousness, and help you regain more freedom and power over your life. If you are curious to discover how your environment is shaping your consciousness far more than you realize, and how becoming more intentional about what you allow into your life can transform the person you are becoming, today's episode is for you. Before we begin, I want to invite you to pause for a moment. You are obviously coming from other activities, other thoughts, and right now we are opening together a sacred space for this transmission. I invite you to take a few deep breaths and feel the air you breathe circulating through your whole body, through each of your cells. Feel your whole body relaxing, becoming more present, more receptive, ready to activate your listening and learning abilities. And as you arrive more fully into this space, ask yourself, what is your state in this moment? How do you feel? If there is a comment section on the app where you're listening to this episode, I invite you to write how you feel there so we can include it together in this sacred space. And now, when you feel ready, enter. Last week, we explored the idea that every decision begins with an inner movement. We discovered that moving away from something and moving toward something are not the same movement, and that understanding the energy behind our decisions helps us make more conscious choices. This week, I would like to explore another aspect of transformation that also influences every change we try to make. I'm sure you've already experienced a moment when you genuinely wanted to change something in your life, something that really mattered to you, only to discover that the change seemed much harder than you expected. Not because you lacked motivation or willingness to change, but because the environment in which you were living wasn't supporting that change. Perhaps you wanted to change careers, start your own business, embrace a healthier way of living, while the people closest to you simply could not understand why you are changing. Changing yourself is already challenging. Trying to change while remaining in an environment that continually reinforces the person you have always been requires far more energy. Years ago, I came across a sentence from, I believe it was Jim Rohn, that intrigued me. It said, basically, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. At the time, my reaction was that can be true. I am me, the people around me are themselves. Of course, we influence one another in some way, but surely not to that extent. And yet the sentence stayed with me. So I decided to look at it more honestly. And I began paying closer attention to the people who were closest to me. Not to judge them, and certainly not to question those friendships, but simply to understand what naturally brought us together. And what I discovered was much more subtle than I expected. We had different personalities, different life stories, and often very different backgrounds. But underneath those differences, we also shared a similar way of looking at life. Certain values felt obvious to all of us. Some possibilities felt completely natural, while others never even became part of our conversations. And without realizing it, we were constantly reinforcing the same way of seeing the world. That was the moment my understanding of Jim Rohn's sentence began to expand. I realized there is something deeply comforting about surrounding ourselves with people who naturally understand us. It makes us feel accepted. We feel that we belong. Um, and there is something deeply beautiful about that. But I also realized that discomfort can sometimes become one of the reasons change feels so difficult. If nobody around us is living the life we are trying to create, it becomes much harder to imagine that life as something that is truly possible. So I don't believe this means we need to walk away from the people we love. In fact, I don't believe that at all. But I do believe that sometimes the most supportive thing we can do for ourselves is to gently expand our circle. Sometimes meeting just one or two people, who already embody the direction in which we want to grow is enough to make the future feel more real, more accessible, and much less extraordinary. And as I continued reflecting on this, I realized that the same principle extends far beyond the people around us. One of the things I love about the shamanic tradition is that it naturally invites us to pay attention to the quality of our relationship with everything that surrounds us. In the shamanic worldview, our environment is never just a backdrop of our lives. We are constantly in relationship with it. It includes the conversation we keep having, the books we choose to read, the podcast we listen to, the information we consume. And it also includes the places where we spend our time, the forest we walk through, the animals we encounter, the plants we care for, the altar we sit in front of, the object we choose to surround ourselves with, and the people with whom we choose to walk the path. Most of these relationships seem completely ordinary. They are part of our routine, and yet they are constantly influencing the way we perceive ourselves and the world around us. There is another sentence from Jim Rohn that has stayed with me over the years, and it says, "Stand guard at the door of your mind." I've always loved that image because it reminds me that awareness is not only about paying attention to what is happening inside us. It is also about paying attention to what we continuously allow to enter our inner world. Every conversation, every relationship, every piece of information we repeatedly expose ourselves to leaves an imprint, whether we notice it or not. Becoming more conscious of our environment is therefore not about controlling everything around us. It is about taking responsibility for what we repeatedly invite into our consciousness. Changing your life is never only about changing yourself. It is also about becoming aware of everything that is silently participating in the person you are becoming, and consciously choosing the relationships that nourish that transformation. So, before we close, I would simply invite you to reflect on those two questions. Who already embodies the direction in which I want to grow? And what kind of environment would truly support the change I want to make in my life? Now, as in every episode, I would like us to experience this transmission together. Before we begin this exercise, just a quick reminder to use your judgment and stay safe if you are driving or doing any activity that requires your full attention. So, if you feel comfortable, I invite you to gently close your eyes for a moment and simply take a slow breath. Allow your body to soften a little. Relax your shoulders, your jaw, your face, and simply notice the space your body is occupying right now. Now, I would like you to bring to mind a moment when you genuinely wanted to change something important in your life, but that desire was not met positively by the people around you. Perhaps they questioned your decision or dismissed your idea. Maybe they tried to convince you not to do it, or they simply couldn't understand why this change mattered so much to you. So take a moment to place yourself back into that situation. Remember where you were, remember the conversations, remember the people who were part of your life at that time. Who did you share this dream, this project, or this desire for change with? Take your time. Notice how they responded. Did they openly discourage you? Or was it much more subtle? Did they change the subject? Did they stay silent? Did they make you feel that what you wanted was unrealistic, unnecessary, or simply not for someone like you? There is nothing to judge here. Simply observe what happened. And now ask yourself one final question. Looking back today, how much did that environment influence what happened next? Did it make you doubt yourself? Did it slow your progress? Did it delay your decision? Did it lead you to give up? Or did it simply require much more energy to keep moving forward? Whatever the answer is, simply notice it with honesty. because awareness is the first step toward consciously choosing the environment that will support the life you are trying to create. Now take one final slow breath. And when you feel ready, gently bring your attention back to the space around you. Now, I would like to leave you with a simple integration practice to continue exploring this concept during the week ahead. This week, I invite you to become curious about your environment. Not only the places where you spend your time, but also the people you speak with, the conversations you keep having, the information you consume, the books you read, the podcasts you listen to. What pops up first when you open your computer? Basically everything you repeatedly expose yourself to throughout the day. There is nothing to change, simply observe as you move, through the week. Ask yourself from time to time, what is this environment inviting me to believe? How is it influencing the way I see myself and the world around me? What patterns keep repeating in my environment? Is this environment supporting the person I'm becoming or the person I have always been? And again, there is nothing to judge. The invitation is simply to become aware. So what this episode invites us to remember is that transformation is never only an inner journey. When you consciously begin to shape your environment so that it supports the person you are becoming, you no longer have to use all of your energy fighting against it. And that energy becomes available for your growth instead. So before we close this sacred space together, I invite you to take one final deep breath. You inhale through the nose and you exhale through the mouth. And you simply notice how you feel compared to the beginning of the episode. You can also take a mental note about what you want to take with you from this moment by the fire today. We can now close this sacred transmission space together. The journey continues within you. Walk gently, walk consciously, and remember, you are never walking alone. If the energy of this transmission resonated with you, I would be truly grateful if you chose to share it as you feel appropriate. Because every time this sacred space is shared, its energy continues to expand and reach the people who may need it most. You can also continue and deepen the journey with me on Substack. That is where I share Whispers from the Shamana, a weekly publication to nourish your deeper self and slowly awaken the shaman within. The address is thedigitalshamana with an A at the end, .substack.com. Thank you truly for your presence here today, for taking this moment for yourself, and for stepping into this space. And I will see you by the fire again very soon.